All right, so if you're looking at this recording, welcome to Oh the Places We Go. We started recording a little bit late, but our panelists are going to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm James. So I am the president and co-founder of Codelab. And so some of my industry experience last summer, I interned as a software engineer at a company called Striver, which is a Series C startup that essentially uses VR for immersive learning for retail chains. So just think of it as getting training on the job, but in VR instead. And so I worked on the immersive team that actually works on the in-headset software. And then the year before that, I worked with T-Mobile's Sacramento radio frequency engineering and operations team as an engineering intern. I did a variety of data science related work, and essentially that team just wants to keep the network afloat in the Sacramento region for T-Mobile. And
so next we're going to go to Assam.
Hey everyone, it's good to see everyone at this meeting today. So my name is Isam Slayman. I'm a junior at UC Davis studying computer science. I was actually one of the people who created or started Codelab at Davis back in, what was it, like fall 2020, I think. So I was one of the four, me, James, and Omid and Edward. And so since Codelab, since I was on the board at Codelab, so since I left, I've been an intern at Twitch. I was an intern at Twitch over the summer and the fall. So my work at Twitch was mostly around doing some machine learning stuff, which I did over the summer. I was essentially building out a model that could classify video games by name. And then over the fall, I continued working at Twitch, where I actually put like my model, the machine learning work that I did, into production. As well as build out, essentially, I did a bunch of like backend work over the fall, and that backend work consisted of building or putting my model into production, as well as doing some stuff in the space of content moderation. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
And next is Jen.
Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm also a third year studying design and psychology at Davis. I'm also VP of design, as I already said earlier in this panel. So last year in the summer, I was a UX researcher at UC San Diego Design Lab, which is more of a research facility and going more to the academic route of UI UX design. I did a lot of reading on research papers related to the topic, which was on studying how students can learn designs better and ways that they can apply principles, kind of like quantifying design principles so it can be applicable to any student that wants to learn more about design and art on this learning process forum. So yeah, I did a lot of UX research, a lot of interviews, a lot of Excel sheet work, a lot of like inputting data. So that's what I did at San Diego. And then my other internship experience was at a small startup company called Mighty Health, which focuses on creating a healthy plan or workout essentially for elders, and trying to increase more awareness for those who kind of like neglect their health. And it was an interesting experience. I mostly just work with developers and project managers. It's kind of similar to Codelab actually, and I communicate them a lot every day. It's pretty sporadic, and I wear a bunch of like hats. Sometimes I did things in marketing, UI UX design, and also graphics for them. And I'm also the project mentor and design, or I was a design associate at Design Interactive, which is another UI UX design club here at Davis. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Anand.
Hi everyone, my name is Anand. So I'm a sophomore here at UC Davis. I'm majoring in cognitive science and I'm minoring in statistics. So some of my background is that I was actually a design associate at the club mentioned by Jennifer. where we worked on the 6-week design sprint to create an application for the student government on campus, which is ASUCD. We started off with research, then ideation, and then prototype, and also tested it out with a bunch of people. So that was a really nice project to work on. I'm also currently a student desk analyst at LSIT. We handle any tickets that come from professors or students under the Letters and Sciences College on campus. And I'm also designer of UI UX designer for Codelab. Yeah.
So next we're going to go into the 4 pre-written questions that we have, and then we'll obviously have time for all of you to answer or ask and have your questions answered by any of us. So on the next slide, we have the 4 questions, which each of our panelists are going to go through and answer their own point of view. So the first question is, how did the technical and or soft skills you learn at Codelab help you in your professional career? First, we will start with James.
Cool. So I think for me, throughout my time in Codelab, I think the technical skills that I gained, of course, are important. I think we value using like tech stacks that you'll see in the real world, kind of the stuff that you'll do in class, like using C to program like little programs that do like one thing to solve your homework assignment isn't really indicative of what you'll do in industry versus like more modern tech stacks for the web, like React and Node. So I think just being able to take time to learn that and do a long-term project with other people is really valuable. And also just the soft skills that you gain, for example, like teamwork and like paired programming that you'll do only if you work on a larger scale project like this versus in class where you have to do most things individually. And then being able to communicate technical concepts with other people is something that's also really important that you'll take away after a term of working on a pretty long and a high commitment project.
Okay, next we're going to go to the design side of things. So I'm going to call on Anand for the first question.
Yeah, so as a designer, you usually work on a lot of projects and for your case to make them into a case study. Often what happens is that you don't get a chance to work with a developer or like a technical team that can actually implement your designs into a real product which is going to be used by people. So the cool thing about Codelab is that I got the opportunity to like interact with actual people, with developers who would guide me in the design thinking process, because usually you have a lot of freedom when you're designing, but working with these constraints helps actually facilitate and create like design which could be implemented in the real world. So that's something which is really nice. This is my first time I got a chance to work with developers. So that was really helpful to carry on, and like, because when you're working in an actual company, you'd be working with developers as well. So having good communication with them is really helpful, and that's something I learned from Codelab. Yeah.
Nice. So we're going to go back to the developers and call on Assam.
Yeah, so to be honest, I think Codelab was a huge factor for me, essentially like furthering my professional career and like getting like my internship last summer at Twitch to start with. Because essentially, like, I'll speak more for the software engineering side, but I'm sure this also works for the design side. But like, when you apply for technical internships, software engineering internships, there's like these companies want to see that you have experience, and like, how are you supposed to get experience before you get the experience at your internship? But Codelab is the perfect place, because Codelab is essentially a place where you can come and get experience either working on projects with companies or like internal projects, but these are real world technical projects that you're on a team like working on, which will give you both the technical and like soft skills that will help you get that internship. And like more specifically in like the technical interviews for software engineering internships, it usually is split into like 2 parts. There's like a technical interview, so they ask you technical questions, and there's also a section where they'll ask you like the behavioral side. And I think like all the things that you learn in Codelab really help for that behavioral side, because they'll always ask about the type of projects that you worked on Codelab, as well as like how you've dealt with other people in a team, which you will also get at Codelab. So to kind of like wrap up the question, I think Codelab is the perfect club and place to get the experience to be able to further your professional career.
Nice, very nice answer. And last but not least, we have Jen.
Yeah, so I think for me, I gained a lot of soft skills here at Codelab that helped with my professional career. I recall like in the beginning of my sophomore year, I was pretty hesitant and I had very big, I mean, even now a little bit, I still have some imposter syndrome, but I wasn't as confident in my work or even applying to like other clubs here on campus. I was super like intimidated by everything. So receiving this position as VP of design here in Codelab, I learned a lot of like leadership skills and building up that confidence and trying to communicate with other people like project managers, developers, other people in the board, which really taught me how to communicate in a concise and effective manner that works in a cross-functional team. And from this experience, like I learned that it kind of carried me through these other internships that I had last year in the summer. Because during my interview process, I both the lab at San Diego and the startup company at Mighty Health, I think they kind of expected like, most college students aren't gonna have like the technical experience, especially with UI UX design, since it's not really like a major that most colleges have. You kind of have to like build it yourself using design or psychology, cognitive science, even like business major. It's very like diverse. So you kind of just have to like hustle by yourself using side projects, clubs, and just like taking what you can in school. So they really like, I think what got them really interested when I was talking to them was more so like my experience at Codelab and like that soft skill, which is like really important, communicating, trying to like ask questions and express concerns when there are problems within a project, which is really important to help like succeed the task that you're given. So that was like a big thing for me. In terms of technical skills at Codelab, I guess like I was a little bit I guess static because I was at the time like the only person who was like a design person in Codelab, but I did get to learn a little bit more like the technical terms on like the software developer end, which is a little bit more helpful for me to understand like what's going on in meetings, especially when I was working at Mighty Health. Because at first I was like super lost, but over time it was a lot. It got a lot easier. Yeah.
Very nice. So we're gonna skip question 2 and go to question 3. What is one thing about working in industry or just like with your experiences that you took away? Like what is one thing that you learned on the job? And I will jump to Issam this time.
So just ask about the question. So you mean what are some things that were positive that I took away from working in industry?
Yes. Question
Okay.
number 3, yes.
Sure. Okay. I would probably say, I don't know. I would probably say there's a couple of things. I think the first thing that I took away is that people are willing to help if you reach out in a nice way. So like to give an example, so I joined over the summer at Twitch, and when I started, I was given this really hard task. I didn't have too much like machine learning experience prior, but so when I joined, I reached out to some people on other teams, and they weren't even on my team, so they weren't like supposed to be like mentoring me. But I just reached out to them on Slack, and they like got back to me, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we can set up meetings like weekly, and I can mentor you, blah blah blah." And I wouldn't have gotten this great experience over the summer and learned so much if I hadn't reached out to other people. So I think like the biggest thing was like always reach out for help and reach out to as many people as you possibly can when you join industry, just to like learn from them, talk to them. People are super willing to just like chat with you for 15-30 minutes about what you want. So yeah, so I think that was the one biggest thing that I took away from working in industry.
Very, very nice. Next, we're gonna go back to Jen.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points that Assam made. I like one of my key takeaway from my experience was also like asking for help as well, because when I first entered into both my internships, I was super like, I guess, nervous and intimidated again, and just like had a high expectation of myself to complete all of the tasks that they gave me like perfectly. And I just assumed like, oh, I just need to do it when they tell me to. And I didn't ask questions. And because of that, it like kind of affected my performance, because if I asked questions, then it would have made the projects go a lot more smoother and made my time a little bit more productive than kind of just like scattering around and figuring things out by myself. So when I communicate that to my mentor, and started to like ask more questions about the design process, who should I go to get more information, and just learn more about the research process for both like the academic lab and the startup company, it made the process go a lot better. And so for Mighty Health, I ended up talking to software engineers and even like the marketing strategists to have a better understanding of how to like solve the problems I needed to solve for my users. And I wouldn't know this information if I didn't ask them. So by limiting myself, I was limiting my experiences. And as for the more academic and research realm of UI UX design, things change a lot. Like nothing is really for sure or super certain. Kind of the same thing as a small startup company as well. Like things aren't really for sure, but at least they have a concrete step of like what to do for next. In a research facility, you can like do something for like a week or like a couple days, and you give it to the head of the research lab, and they might critique and want you to do something completely different. So communicating and always asking for help was like very, very essential.
Very nice. Next, we're gonna jump back to James.
Cool. Yeah, so I think one thing about working in industry that I took away, I think probably a little bit similar to what Assam said too, is just how valuable like the people around you are, especially if you're going into an internship, just how open all of your senior engineers on your team are going to be. And I think one really important thing that's good to keep in mind going into an internship or even your first job is that these senior engineers, although they can be intimidating and give you imposter syndrome and make you feel like you know nothing, you can flip that around and look at them as like a resource that you can take advantage of. And although take advantage of kind of has a bad connotation, but what I mean by that is senior engineers, even though they look scary, most of them in my experience actually love like interns or new grads. And if you reach out nicely, they'll be willing to talk to you, like help you out if you're stuck on a technical problem, and just being able to talk to them and get mentorship and asking them like what their career pathway was, and like any advice they might have for you, or like sharing interests and seeing like how you can connect is something that's really valuable. And just being able to communicate and talk with these engineers, and just like anyone in the company too, is really important, as it kind of broadens your perspectives, because especially in tech, there's just so much to do. Like you really can't do everything, but you can always learn about a lot of things just by talking to everyone and learning from them.
Very nice. Next is Anand.
Yeah, I think before me, Dolly put it across really well, but I feel like, I just narrow down to 2 points. That is like, so when you're in an internship, you'd be like you meeting people who are in the industry already, and just I think networking and just scheduling 15-minute interviews with even your manager or even your coworkers would be really interesting, because you could learn about new opportunities that will be available elsewhere. And another thing would be asking just questions, just asking questions regarding your product, or asking just for help, as Jennifer had mentioned. Just people know you're in an internship, and they don't expect you to know everything, so they expect you to ask questions though. So ask them any question, be it dumb or whatever, it doesn't matter. They want to help, and so I think definitely ask any questions is super helpful.
Yeah, Jen, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I also wanted to add one more thing that I took away from my experience too, is like I always thought that if I get an internship, it's like, oh, this is perfect. This is a gateway to get the experience I want, so I can like do more scrappy work and then get the big internship that I always wanted at a big tech company later down the road. But I learned that not all internship experiences are going to satisfy you, and not everyone you work with is going to be the kind of team that you want to continue to work with for long term. So just keep that in mind and think about like the kind of people that you want to work with, the company culture. And I think that plays a big part, not so much of like, I guess, yes, the role is important, but also like who you work with is also really important too.
Very nice. But last but not least, if every panelist could give like a quick 30-second like spiel about what the best advice you could give to anyone in your major about pursuing a field in technology. First, we will start with Issam.
Best advice. So my major is computer science, and the best advice that I would give is don't make the mistake of only focusing on like your classes and like getting the A+ in all of your classes. Definitely join different clubs, learn technical skills. Technical skills are very important. And essentially kind of like the goal is to be able to get like a job once we graduate. And before that, like in undergrad, that means like, oh, the goal is like to get an internship while we're in undergrad. Because the internship is what leads you to the full-time job. And to get an internship, one needs to like join clubs, one needs to kind of learn different technical skills, build something cool, and all these things you can do at Codelab.
Very nice answer. Next, we'll go to Anand.
Yeah, so I'm a cognitive science major with a computational emphasis. So that sort of like gives you a lot of opportunities. Like you can go into any pathway. You could be like either UX designer. And I've heard a lot of people as well who are also like in the field of computer science and AI. You could also go the research route as well, because it's a relatively new field. Because the field of cognitive science encourages like holistic thinking. So it's the subjects that come under it are not just computer science, psychology, but it's also linguistics and philosophy, and neuroscience as well, which is like a really cool approach, in my opinion, to understand how the brain works. So, and that can be applied in various fields, be it like AI, UX design. You can even be a nursery school teacher as well, because it's all about cognition and how children, like, how children's brains function. So the options are pretty wide open. So I think dabbling in clubs like Codelab would be really helpful in understanding where you help figure out where you want to work and what kind of work you like to do. So yeah.
Very nice. Next, we'll go to James.
Okay, I think the best advice I would give is to just don't be afraid of diving into many things, especially while you're in college. So yeah, I'm a computer science major, and within computer science, there are just so many pathways. It's not just like you're a CS major and then you're going to be a software engineer. Even within software engineering, there are so many things you can get into, like web development, machine learning, like embedded development, things like that. And I would say just be open to giving anything a try. Like even for example, in my experience going into my internship as driver, I never worked in anything with VR at all. And I didn't really know like its implications, like how big it was and how cool it could be to work on it until after like I took that leap and like I went and I worked on those technologies. So if similarly, like you can go into learning some technologies and come out of it learning that that's something that you don't like and it's something that you want to avoid, because you also don't want to be stuck the rest of your life doing something that you don't like. So I would just say be open to exploring everything around you. And when you find the things that you like, you can dive deeper and hopefully find a path for you.
And last but not least is Jen.
I'd say the best advice I can give for those who are studying design or psych. I guess my emphasis is more so on design. But just make sure you update your portfolio. Like after every single project, just update it, because I really regret not doing that right after each internship or project I've done, because going back and trying to work on my portfolio the past couple of days and the past couple of weeks was really hard. It was really hard, like kind of recollecting all the decisions and reasons why I made these designs and for these prototypes. So just make sure you update your portfolio. Also, don't be afraid to like take as many opportunities as you can, but also make sure that one, you can handle it, and two, you prioritize your mental health, because at least for me, like I kind of took too much and I ended up not enjoying some of the things that I did for a little bit internally. So just make sure like when you are pursuing these projects and you're trying to update your portfolio, it's okay to like take breaks and make sure you like are actually enjoying it, because you don't want to do things that you don't like to do. I hope that was helpful. Yeah.
All right. Thank you everyone for answering the questions. Just a little bit of like quick advice from my side. Personally, I completely understand where like everyone is. I have applied for my master's in biomedical engineering and I have no experience whatsoever, like everyone has mentioned. And when I first applied to Codelab, I was super nervous because I've never been a part of a larger scale project. And personally, I didn't think I was going to get it, or even like my board position, and like just applying yourself and being confident in applying yourself as well. And like everyone notices like the little intricacies about you and knows like how good of an applicant that you are. So just having that self-confidence in yourself and prioritizing your mental health as well. So yeah. Next, we're going to go into your guys' questions. I know you guys probably have a lot of questions, so feel free to target anyone on the panel or just in general who you'd like to ask questions, and just about like Codelab, industry, college, or anything else you have in mind. This time is meant for you guys, so feel free to answer any question or ask and we'll answer. That's what we're here for. So yeah. And you could also like privately DM us if you're not comfortable like sharing. And yeah.
This is your time to ask questions. Ask
Yeah.
us.
I think Stephanie has a question.
Yeah, sorry. Hello. I guess my question is, what advice would you give to someone who's applying to Codelab, like when going through the questions? I don't know, just any general advice.
Yeah, I think in general, what we're looking for is like, we encourage you to spend like some time like thinking about the questions. Don't just like rush through it and write up whatever answer that comes to mind off the bat. But I think just some advice is just to like be yourself and like be able to like express like what your passions might be and like kind of the reason why you want to join Codelab and what you're hoping to take out of it. Since you know, overall, when we do look at the applicants, we read all of these responses, and through it we kind of try to see like who who you are and how like we could work with you and like what kind of motivates you.
And to kind of add on to that, one thing that we definitely prioritize here at Codelab is a willingness to learn, because we recognize that a lot of college students might not have like prior experience. So if you're able to convey that you truly are passionate about Codelab and are willing to learn like new technologies or new design principles, like we definitely would like to see that as well. Does Alec have a question?
Yeah, so this is like a general question. So it sounded like asking questions is really important, especially in the industry. So I was wondering if there's like a roadblock in a project, is it better to ask them immediately, or is it better to like just work in different areas and just like come up with a list of issues that you run into?
Yeah, I can answer. So I think in this case, so personally I've run into roadblocks all the time, and I think what my kind of strategy is first to like give it a try and see like how far I can get, and then just like take notes of like what's wrong, and then have a really good idea in my head like of what could be going wrong, and do like all the necessary testing and like debugging that I can do by myself. And then after that, I try to like formulate the problem really well so that when I do reach out, like I'm not going to be wasting anyone's time or like confusing anyone, and I can clearly state like exactly what's going on and like exactly what question I want to ask them and like how they can help me too. Because I think something, and this is just something you'll learn too from getting more experience, like running into roadblocks, is you don't want to spend too much time dwelling on it, but you also don't want to just continuously ask immediately without giving it an effort first or not being able to communicate the problem.
So I'll add on to that. I think people always say there's no such thing as a dumb question. But like sometimes there are, especially in industry, like not always. I don't want to say this, but like if you have a mentor, if you're doing an internship and like your mentor is the person that's supposed to like be helping you, and you're constantly asking him questions, he or she, questions where it's like something that you can easily just like look up, then that's like not a good question to ask. But if it's something that they have more technical knowledge than you and they'd be able to like help you and you are like really stuck, then you should ask that question. So like you should kind of gauge like, oh, is this something that, oh, if I just Google it or if I look somewhere I can find it, or is this a question where I actually need help or I can't continue?
To go off of like Issam's point on dumb questions too. Yeah, so I agree with his point as well. Like I guess so on a different perspective. So if you have a problem and you try to work at it by yourself, and then you have like more specifics of questions to ask to solve this problem, I think that's fine. And usually the mentor and anyone that's working with you will be happy to teach you, especially since like you're still in college, you're still young, they're going to want to help you, versus if you're like already working full-time in the industry as an adult. But once they do like tell you the solution and explain step by step on how to solve the problem, make sure to take note of that and remember that, because these people you're working with are busy and you don't want to make them repeat themselves. So if you were to ask that question again and not have any like takeaways from what they said the first time, that's not a good look on you as a worker or intern or and anything in general. I think that's something to keep in mind.
Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay. Got a thumbs up. Very good questions. Okay, there's a question in chat saying, are there any tips you guys would give when we are looking for technical internships, speaking from personal experience, aside from the obvious, such as acquiring extracurricular participation, working on projects and such? So you mean like actually getting the internship, Ellen? Okay. I think personally, just in my experience, if you feel like you have a lot of technical experience or design experience, personally, just like applying everywhere, I know there's a lot of resources like LinkedIn, and there's also a website called Ripple Match that I use. And there's also like Way Up, I believe, like just basically reaching out to recruiters as well and seeing if you can get any referrals from some people that you know that work in like the company that you want to work at. And honestly, just reaching out. So yeah, does anyone else have anything else that they want to add?
Yeah, I can also add. So I actually got the San Diego internship and the Mighty Health startup internship through just people I knew in the UI UX design community. So more so like word of mouth, and just having these connections is always good. So like I know you said not to talk about like extracurriculars or side projects, but that's how I got my internships, just from working with people and knowing people, which helped me like have that relationship with those who are like giving me these opportunities. And kind of similar what Salma said too, just going online, going on LinkedIn, Handshake, Indeed. I also, this is, I guess, more so specific to females who want to go into tech. I use Built by Girls, and I get paired with a mentor every 3 months. So that way I build a personal connection with them. And one of them I actually still talk to for like the whole year. And she currently is a UI UX designer for developers at Amazon. And she's been giving me a lot of advice on how to like apply, do internships, and even like offering referrals. So that was really helpful. Just like socializing, knowing how to network and talking to people is very important.
I agree. Next, we're going to go to the next question saying, I guess this is for like Jen and Anand. Is this a good club to join if I have no experience in UI UX? If Anand and Jen, you want to weigh in on this one?
Anand, do you want to answer this question first, since you recently just joined Codelab as a UI UX designer?
Yeah, sure. So before coming to Codelab, I had only worked on like a really small project, which was like lasted for 2 weeks, so it's not a big deal. But I managed to, they took me in. So I had asked them for why, and should mention that I wanted to work with people, other designers as well as developers, and that willingness to learn. And it's not just about how many skills you have, how many projects you have, it's how much you want to actually grow as a designer. And that's something you can definitely do at Codelab, because I've grown so much. I can't explain it. I've grown a lot since I first came to Codelab. So yeah, it's a really good place to start. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if everybody else is ahead of you. It's fine, because I feel like everybody has their own pace, and even if you're just getting into this field like relatively new, it's fine. You can just like, the learning part, not the hard part. It's a willingness to learn is more important. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want Anand to answer that question first, because I know I'm VP of design at Codelab, so I might be a little bit biased compared to a student who just joined. But yeah, I think Codelab is a great place to join, especially if you don't have any experience in UI UX. As like Anand already said, and everyone else on this panel has said, like it's a great place for you to come here and just have the willingness to learn and apply. And we're very accepting to those who don't have any experience, because we want students to build these skill sets so that they can become more prepared after they graduate or when applying for internships.
Yeah, that was a very good question. And the last question we have for now is, what are some of the projects you guys have worked on in Codelab, if anyone has a favorite or anything? Yeah, the one that me and Intu worked on actually was Aggie Explorer. So if you visit aggieexplorer.com, you can see the work that we've done. And that's what first got me into Codelab, actually, and when I first applied. So yeah, James just put it in chat, but it is a great distribution tool that we worked on that pulls data from wow, I'm not good at explaining this, but pulls data and shows like the the grade distribution as well as the class enrollment, how many spots are left over time. So yeah, Mintu, if you want to weigh in, or anyone else.
Yeah, I think Egg Explorer is generally a fan favorite. Really cool to just like browse around and see the grade distributions. Also helpful in like making informed decisions of what classes you want to take and what professors you want to take. I think maybe another cool project is last term they revamped the Codelab website. And I think it looks amazing. And you guys have probably seen it, but if you haven't, we'll drop the link too. Really beautiful website. I think that's an awesome project. Oh, Jen, you can go ahead.
Okay, I just didn't know when to go because yeah, my favorite project to work on was lunchroom. This is actually a project that's still ongoing, but as a VP of design, I don't really get to like fully integrate myself to any of these projects really. I more so like oversee or help guide the designers during the terms. So lunchroom is actually my first like Spark project slash mentored project kind of thing that I did with the other designers in Codelab. It's essentially a Rate My Professor, but only for UC Davis students, and there's still like ongoing research and iterations. And we're trying to look for, I don't know if I should be giving this information out, but developers to work with us to actually like finish this project this year. And it was really cool to like just interact with people within the club and hopefully soon with other developers too. Yeah, and it's just really like fun to see everything start from the beginning and hopefully towards the end see something fleshed out and for people like you guys, students, to use down the road in the future. Yeah. Oh, there's also Anon that wants to speak.
Yeah, so I'm working with Jen on the lunchroom project, and something just pretty cool about working on a project on Codelab is that since it's actually going to be a real website, which is people are going to use, you go into like the small parts, the grassroots of the applications you're developing, and that's a really fun process for me because some things you overlook when you're doing a personal project is something you cannot overlook because this is the real world and people are going to be clicking on your website. So you need to make sure everything's perfect or like close to perfect. So that's a really fun process, trying to make every single thing work in cohesion. I guess, yeah, thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to drop them in chat. So we have a question from Mintu. Do you have any advice on how to get the most out of Codelab? Oh, thank you, Jasmine. Oh, actually, let's skip to Alex's question. One of the projects that called Family Proud caught my attention, and I saw that developers had difficulty understanding with a given code base. I'm still unfamiliar with the process of building on top of someone's applications. So what was the most difficult part? And if you could redo, what project would you change? Yeah, this is a very good question, actually.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone here was involved in that project. So I don't know if we can speak from experience. But I think with pretty much anytime you'll be onboarded into a large code base, it most likely will be pretty hard to understand right off the bat. I know like when I started my internship, I was onboarded onto their code base and like it's just a lot. It's really overwhelming. There, like in industry, like when you're working, there are like millions or billions of lines of code, and not all of it is going to make sense, obviously. So I think, and yeah, that's kind of what the upkeep projects are going to be, like kind of working on top of an existing code base. And so, yeah, I think pretty much I think when you're building a project from scratch in the first place, having good coding styles, good commenting of the code, and good documentation are really important for like its future sustainability and being able to build on top of it, and new developers being onboarded onto it. But if you're the one being onboarded onto onto an existing code base, I think just really like probing whoever was previously on that and asking them questions about the code base is what's really important. And I don't know exactly like how the developers in Family Proud handled it, but I think if I was there, I would be in contact with the engineers as much as I could reasonably, and just ask them questions about like why they did this or that on their code base, and try to understand it better so I could build on top of it.
I also want to add to this question or answer too. I guess it's a little bit more general and touches a little bit on the design side for the Family Proud project. I think one of the biggest mistakes we had is the developer side and the design side of things. We barely communicated, and it like took a toll on the project. So that was like a really big learning curve for us as a board, and also for me too, as a designer trying to lead a project, because it was like my first time entering to Codelab. The point is on why I brought this up is because like I know we all emphasis on like talking about communicating, which is important, which is why like that process was kind of difficult for that project, but also just like that not like everything is going to be perfect, and we're all here to like support each other. So if you feel intimidated to apply again for the developer role or the design role, and think that you need to have everything like figured out for your projects, whether it's like Spark or industry, I don't think you should. Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question that says, can you explain more about the Spark projects as well? Are they like foundation new startup projects?
Yeah, cool. I think so for our Spark projects, I think yeah, I guess we could kind of call them like foundation / new startup projects. It's really just an in-house project that we build up. So we're the ones that are going to design out the project brief, and we're also the ones that are going to provide you with the technical mentorship and kind of guide you through the process, and create like some project at the end that's not necessarily like tied to an industry company that people can use. For example, like Aggie Explorer is a Spark project that we built from scratch that consisted of like full stack web development. And so I think the core difference between a Spark project and an industry project is that the industry project has like a tech startup company stakeholder within it, and you will be kind of integrated into their company, working in their tech stack, and also getting the technical mentorship from them, versus a Spark project is something we design in-house that you get technical mentorship from us, and the stakes are a little bit lower and more beginner friendly, since we're kind of starting from scratch, using like common modern technologies to build out something that can hopefully be used by a lot of people.
All right, the next question says, what team should we apply to if we have extensive design experience but very basic UI UX experience? Personally, I'll just take this one. I think you should honestly apply to whatever team you feel like is best fit for you, whether in industry or Spark projects. Industry, you're going to be working more with a client on meeting with them, seeing what they vision for their UI UX experience, and Spark will be more within the team itself, not with like an outside client. Personally, it's whatever you feel like you will have the most drive towards, because we highly value that over just basic experience. As long as you have a motivation to learn, then yes. And you can also be interested in multiple teams, as Omin said. So yeah, it's not so like it's not just like a one, you have to pick one over the other. You can definitely apply to both. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all of Salma's points. I think you should just apply to both. On our end, looking at the applicants, portfolio and your experience. Like from there, like we'll make the decision if we feel like you're best fit for the Spark project, which is more in-house and you get more mentorship from us versus an outside client. But like I think again, like I agree with someone, just apply to both if you're interested in both, and don't play down your skills, because I know a lot of people, including myself, sometimes have a tendency to do those things. So what you might consider very basic UI UX experience might not be super basic. It might be, you might actually know a lot and you don't think so, but we wouldn't know. So just apply to everything.
Of course. Does anyone else have any questions? We're going to stick around for a little bit, so feel free to ask any questions as they pop in your head, or DM us if you would like. I hope this is helpful to you guys. And you can ask any fun questions about like Codelab in general, like our favorite social or stuff like that. It doesn't have to be necessarily related to industry. And if not, feel free to head out. We are very happy to have you guys here, and thank you for coming.
Wait, just let me, one more thing before you guys go. Just like quick reminder about recruitment week. So this was our second and final event for recruitment week, but just a reminder that applications are due this Sunday by midnight. So please make sure you guys get those in on time. Submitting earlier is better too, as it gets us a chance for us to review it earlier as well. And interviews will start being scheduled shortly after that. And yeah, so as Salma was saying, once again, thank you guys so much for coming. If you guys haven't filled out the sign-in form already, please do that now. The link is on this slide, and there's also the link to the application. So definitely check that out if you have not already. And also, as Salma said, we are going to be sticking around here for a few more minutes if you guys have any lingering questions, either for the panelists or anything general about the application.